Welcome back to your latest industry recap. Boeing 787s have been grounded. British Airways set to resume flights to an international destination as their own 787 situation improves, and a new 777X order may be on the cards. Why not begin there? With Malaysia Airlines currently in the process of renewing its fleet, and the 777X could be one of the subsequent possible additions as Boeing weighs up an offer, according to fresh comments made by the global president of the American plane maker to Business Times. Aircraft such as the 777X could very well be part of the future Malaysia Airlines aircraft portfolio. Malaysia Airlines really isn't just stopping there. Hot off the back of a purchase of the 737 MAX to elevate its single-aisle fleet, is now evaluating the requirement for more wide-bodies to capture demand in future decades. Boeing, a long-time supporter of Malaysia Airlines and an integral part of its day-to-day flying, feels it is well positioned to nicely offer its next-generation products to act as solutions to the problem that Malaysia Airlines is attempting to solve. However, it won't just be Boeing's contract that needs to be assessed. Malaysia Airlines has already committed heavily to next-generation wide-body aircraft, and not from the American plane maker, rather with Airbus, that sees the A330neo and the A350 featured. With the retirement of the A380, Malaysia Airlines has technically a gap in the market for a potential next generation of high-capacity twin-engine planes, and Boeing feels it may be able to offer a plane such as the 777X. While the A380 has been retired, the realization also has to be made that Malaysia Airlines did move away from these ultra-high capacity planes and may not be willing to go back in for a plane on this scale. While there's only so much Boeing can do to promote the aircraft, the decision will ultimately rest on Malaysia Airlines. Boeing feels there are advantages to taking on a plane such as the 777X or even something like the 787, but they're not going to really feel any other way when this is their own product they're attempting to sell. Analysts, however, may argue that unless opting for the high-capacity 787-10, the other associated variants may be too closely related to the A330neo, and ultimately overcomplicate the fleet moving forward, with simplification just not occurring. Therefore, it remains vital for Malaysia Airlines to evaluate all available options, even down to what delivery slots are currently available to them when building that crucial fleet composition. The MAX order signing ceremony is where we received firm confirmation that they are evaluating options for a new widebody, and while an A330neo edition could be another option, the company must look ahead to what they believe will be useful in future decades. If an aircraft like the 777X is to be the desired winner, it'll have to slot neatly into the future of the route portfolio. Therefore, while there is so much importance over what aircraft this airline is going to go on to order, there also has to be a really important understanding of what the route network will look like, say, in 2014, based on key data. Where does Malaysia Airlines want to target, and where does it believe demand is going to head towards? If it feels that it needs an aircraft such as the 777X, it'll go on to purchase this, but if it feels it can maybe make do with the A350 series, remembering it has not purchased the A350-1000, then that very well could be another option to ensure that fleet commonality remains. Over to some positive news. British Airways has confirmed it'll recommence service between London Heathrow and Kuala Lumpur after a 4-year hiatus. The service, which is slated to resume tomorrow on April 2, 2025, depending on when you are watching this, follows months of delays spurred on by engine woes with the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 on the 787 Dreamliner. These new flights are to be operated by that very 787-9, which is really striving for a bit of a clean slate, where it hopefully will not run into engine-related issues that'll force units to be parked on the ground temporarily and therefore result in also massive network adjustments. Due to engine reliability concerns, British Airways could not resume specific routes or offer frequency increases because it was not able to confirm whether the 787 aircraft it used to facilitate these route changes would be actually active. British Airways says it engaged in great discussions with Malaysia about the service's recommencement, and it now feels confident that a relaunch can occur and will not be hindered by the reliability constraints that the 787 has experienced. This route recommencement has been a long time coming. The UK-based carrier axed the route some 4 years ago as part of network restructuring in response to the COVID-19 global pandemic, which not just rampaged our industry, but also really saw international demand plummet to significant lows, and airlines such as British Airways, well, they had to react. The airline is expecting solid load factors, but is very much aware that it may take time to fully rebuild the service that has been absent for quite some time and definitely longer than the airline would have initially liked. I say that because to confirm, the London Heathrow to Kuala Lumpur flights were actually supposed to relaunch in November of last year. However, those plans were shelved in response to reliability concerns with the Dreamliner that I continue to speak of. It wasn't the only route that saw adjustments, but it certainly was one of the headline ones. Therefore, Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur now have much to offer British Airways customers, and it's why the airline is excited about finally being able to return without the detriment to its broader day-to-day operation. From business travellers who will be commuting from the city in Asia to London and beyond to those travelling for tourism-related reasons. There certainly is many markets that they want to capture, and they're excited to finally be able to recommence services. Over to the final story, and maybe a little bit more frustrating news. Kenya Airways is currently affected by engine maintenance complications which have now grounded Boeing 787 aircraft. The groundings, which have been spread across a multi-month period, impact its ability to serve international routes. Fleet data indicates that Kenya Airways has 9 Dreamliners to its name, all of the 787-8 variant, but data shows that a third have been grounded, and they're forcing to really ground these planes as they succumb to ongoing maintenance woes and an inability to secure the spare engines and parts to ensure that they continue operating in a safe manner. Passenger revenue now remains Kenya Airways' biggest concern. Again, with 1/3 of that 787 fleet parked up, it can generally not serve all the locations that it truly wants to be able to do so. And as a result, especially with the Easter period coming up, Kenya Airways says it will be facing financial pressure, which is far from ideal, but even more so when you do understand that the situation continues to be out of their own control. According to the airline's CEO, these 787s have just been incapable of operating across the network for now 2 months. And with April arriving, the jets remain parked and no resolution having been found. Securing the necessary spare engines for the planes to return to service, let alone the existing engines to obtain the required maintenance, has very much been an industry-wide problem. In the last story in this aviation recap, I was discussing the positive news that a route was finally resuming, but if you'll recall, I did also take a look at how it has been delayed by many months because of the same reason why Kenya Airways is grounding its own aircraft. In terms of the effects, well, that certainly varies depending on each respective operator's set of circumstances, which are always going to be unique. Kenya Airways' biggest priority, however, is get these planes back in the sky for their peak season. If the jets were to remain grounded during what they consider to be the high season, it would have a catastrophic impact on the company's finances. Unfortunately, however, like I've said time and time again, the ability to get these planes back into service is not necessarily down to the airline, but rather key suppliers and manufacturers. So therefore, if you are in the shoes of Kenya Airways, you just have to remain patient, keep an open dialogue with these companies to make sure that work is being conducted to try and get fixes to take place. And when there's a chance that these planes can return to service in a safe manner possible, you absolutely have to take that with your set of hands. Let me know your thoughts on today's aviation news recap down below in the comments. Thanks a bunch for watching, take care, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next recap.
And we'll fly.